On today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast, we give you a little bit of insight about the truth of NIL. We also tell you about today's preview of the Ole Miss Sanford basketball game that should be happening this afternoon. And we kind of talk about the Sugar Bowl and do a little bit of odds and ends towards the end. So hang around for that. And this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the truth about NIL, and we are going to go into today's basketball game preview and do a little bit of odds and ends about the Sugar Bowl. Today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. Sonos is the official sponsor of ESPN College Football. Go to Sonos.com to learn more. And also, thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms, including soon to be YouTube. Whenever we get that address, we'll get that to you as well. So, I want to talk about NIL. And you hear all these things around the country about Texas having the $50,000 for every offensive lineman, and SMU is pulling together, creating like a super PAC for their players that's going to like contribute $1 million a year or something like that. And I mean, stories are bouncing all around the country of that. And this is what people need to realize. And I think this is very important for people to realize. There's only one set of money. So if a booster was giving to the university and they are now giving to NIL, they're not giving extra money. And eventually, it's going to come down to going to Disney World or some sort of vacation or some sort of pleasure thing that they can get something out of, and NIL is going to get forgotten. NIL is the new toy right now that is going to kind of go away and normalize a little bit. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So what I'm saying is, if a person gives $20,000 to a school, and now he is giving $20,000 to NIL, there's a chance that now he is not going to give the extra $20,000 to that school. So if you have a capital campaign, if you're trying to raise money for any number of things, NIL is kind of taking the place of that. And it's becoming a school versus player for dollars coming in from boosters. That is what is being set up with NIL right now. Now, it could all be fine. Everything's going to normalize. Everything's going to work out. What I think is going to happen is $10,000 of that $20,000 donation goes to the school. $10,000 goes to NIL. But it's not going to be what we're seeing right now. Right now, everything is new. It's like cutting on the fire hose and just water just pouring out, and you can't really, make anything of it. Because it's, there's so much so quickly coming at you. But the reality is NIL is going to normalize. It's going to be a symbiotic relationship with the school, which means whenever NIL and booster dollars are coming from the same place, they're going to find a way to make them mesh. Now, like I said, it might be a $10,000 donation to the school, $10,000 for NIL. Or the school might just try, if they have a capital campaign coming up, which Ole Miss is about to start, a large capital campaign, you're going to see them a little bit behind in NIL. And they're probably going to play the long game and understand that promises are not always going to be kept. Because, like I said, this is not extra money. And people are going to pledge this stuff, but whenever they see the actual hitting of their pocketbooks, they're probably not going to do it. Or they're not going to do it at the extent that they thought they were going to do it, or when they were really excited about going we need to do NIL. No. So you're going to see them continue to invest in the school. You're going to see them do some NIL stuff, but not at the level you're seeing now. You're going to see this normalized. Now, for college athletes, good for them. It is always good to get the dividends, basically, of something new like this when everybody is early adapting, trying to figure out what's going on. the Texas offensive lineman, you get to make some money. And I always say this. If NIL was around in 2014, Bo Wallace would have been rich. He would have made money. All kinds of money because of what he did and what he meant to the state of Mississippi. Wasn't there. He just had to go to college and be good Bo and bad Bo. But in today's atmosphere, there's money to be made. It's like I said, Arch Manning coming to Ole Miss, this man could make $10 million a year in NIL. Because until you understand what a Manning means inside the state of Mississippi, you just don't know. I mean, it's a really big deal just him being out. Everybody's talking about Texas, Georgia, and all these other ones, all these, quote, blue bloods, which don't really exist anymore. Deion Sanders and Jackson State proved that wasn't the case the other day. But you can see how NIL is a game changer. And Arch Manning, by the way, is due to go to the Sugar Bowl and to watch the Ole Miss game. So technically this is a second visit. But it just so happens Ole Miss is playing in his hometown, and there's a lot of ties between the Mannings and Ole Miss. Everybody knows that. So I am really excited about what's going on with NIL. I don't care what's going on at Ole Miss right now. I don't care what's going on at any school right now. Because like I said, this needs to normalize. Once this normalizes a little bit, you'll be able to see exactly what you have. You can't necessarily see what you have right now. I mean, it is what it is. You can't see what you have right now. And a group of boosters in Ole Miss are, I guarantee you, trying to figure out right now how they can put together some NIL for athletes, which is great. Good for the athletes. But in 2 years, it's going to look completely different than it does now. It's not going to move on at the same level for 15 years. That isn't going to happen because this is not extra money, like I said. If a booster is giving $20,000 to a university, he's not going to give extra money to NIL. No matter how much he loves the school, everybody loves money more. So if they're giving money to NIL, it's at the expense of the school. So it's going to be a school versus player bidding war for a little bit. And with Ole Miss having a capital campaign, you better hope that wins because they're talking about tearing down the west side and, and just completely rebuilding that. And you have a completely different looking Vaught Hemingway Stadium. And I mean, that's interesting to me. I want to see that. But in the age of NIL, that could stop a little bit of the capital giving going forward if you're donating to NIL. Because remember, like I said, it's not extra money. People think other people's money is completely unlimited. If you give $20,000 to the school, you can give another $20,000 to NIL. It doesn't work that way. If you have $20,000 that you donate to the school, you have $20,000 you donate to the school. NIL and the school is going to come out of the same pot. So that is the ugly truth, I guess, behind NIL. So, like I said, it is what it is, and I'm pretty excited about the future of what's going to happen and how it's going to look. But for the time being, I mean, you're going to have like a fire hose effect right now with so much water coming out, and nobody really knows how this is going to be. Everybody, you have people talking about how they want Congress to regulate it, and this is so unfair and everything. It's just because there are different ways and different avenues to handle this. Right now, you have schools making outlandish offers. There's a rumor inside the SEC of somebody offered $40,000 a year for 4 years. Now, if they do not make that payment that they promised, that's a reputation stain that all of a sudden $40,000 in 4 years, that's not going to be enough to entice somebody. You're going to have to really start overselling because your reputation is going to be squandered. Just want that to make sense. I'll say that again. You have to really overpromise if you underdeliver this first time. It is very important that you only promise what you can deliver right now. It is absolutely important because your reputation is is everything at this. So just be careful with the NIL. I get that everybody wants to start their little NIL packs or whatever, and raise money and doing all you're doing. Just be careful. We do not know what this is going to look like. It could be a lot of wasted effort at this point. Right now, we're doing fine. Top 25 recruiting class. We're going in the portal. We're doing fine. So, and also, before we go into the break real quick, I want to say this. This is absolutely hilarious to me. Every year, Lane Kiffin has extremely deliberate with coaches and portal players. Extremely deliberate. Like months deliberate. And this year, just because there's not a player signed in the first week and a half, there's a problem when you're doing this exactly like you always do it. It's absolutely bizarre. It makes no sense whatsoever. You got a whole bunch of people playing the telephone game and figuring out how to cover this, and I think that is affecting the narrative of the fan base. They expect something to quickly happen when that wasn't ever in the cards. So, whatever. Anyway, when we come back, we will talk about the Ole Miss Sanford game today and talk a little bit about basketball as well. And segment 3, we are going to talk about the Sugar Bowl. Stick around. This is it, the putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours, but on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software? To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. Over 27,000 businesses already use NetSuite, and right now, through the end of the year, NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/lockedonnca. Head to netsuite.com/lockedonnca for your special end-of-year financing on the #1 financial system for growing businesses. That's netsuite.lockedon. That's netsuite.com/lockedonnca. So you give those guys a good look. They're the #1 cloud financial system that will help power your growth, and basically it's a pretty good deal. So give them a call. netsuite.com/lockedonnca. All right, welcome back. Thanks again for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day. Make sure to check out the Ultimate College Football Preview in 2021. They have local experts, betting advice, and draft analysis. The most comprehensive college football playoff preview begins this Friday. So definitely tune in for that. I took part of that with Josh Neighbors. You heard the interview yesterday. I put it on this show. Ole Miss versus Stanford today at 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central. Sanford is a 9-2 team. They're only 2-1 away. The game in Oxford. They're averaging 76 points a game, 72 against. Giving up or shooting 43%. They're rebounding. Their numbers are really similar to Ole Miss. But it'll be interesting to see what Ole Miss can do. This will be basically part 3 of what they can do with Deshaun Ruffin coming back. He's been on a pitch count. He's done 13 minutes. He's done 17 minutes. I think he goes over 20 against Sanford. This is the last non-conference game before SEC play. I think they open with Florida on the 29th. So their best player is a guard, Glover, averaging 19 points a game. Good shooter, shooting nearly 90% from the line. Their best rebounder is Marshall, getting 9.2, and Glover's also the assist guy. So he's obviously a really good player. Ole Miss's leading scorer is Jarkel Joyner. He's averaging 14.5 a game. Nasir Brooks is leading in rebounds at 7.8. And the assist guy is Austin Crawley, who's seen his minutes affected most by Deshaun Ruffin. So it's one of those situations you kind of feel bad for him, what's going on, but it is what it is. It's a game that I want to see Ole Miss kind of take control of, and I want to see them put it away early. One of the things we've seen recently, as far as it being a young team, there's several new pieces that are on the floor, including Nasir Brooks, Jamin Brakefield, Deshaun Ruffin, and stuff like that. I want to see them put this game away. I want the 10-minute mark of the second half. I want this game to be basically over. That's what I'm looking for out of this game. And it'll be interesting to see. I want to see Ruffin. I want to see the spacing and the drive. His drive ability is special. There was a couple of times when Dayton tried to press him that there was just no chance. There's nobody that can stay in front of him, and he just drove the length of the field and just laid it in. I mean, it was very good. He's fearless around the basket. It's one of those things that when his splint gets better and he starts getting more comfortable and starts making three-point shots, he'll become even more deadly. He will also help out Jamin Brakefield. He'll also help out Matt Burrell. I can see the way this team was constructed, what Kermit was trying to do with Deshaun at the point guard as the penetration guy, the two wings of basically Brakefield and Matt Burrell out there for threes. You got the big rim protector with Nasir Brooks. You got Jarkel Joyner, who has the great in-between game. And you can see how he constructed this roster. And now it's just time to grow. I hate that we lost 10 games of growth and potential that they could mesh together. But, I mean, that happened. They lost those games. Those are gone. But now that they're together and can grow, now they have to grow really quickly because Florida is waiting around the bend like a week away. I think it's 9 days away from right now, or 8 days away from right now. So they're going to have to grow quickly. So you need to handle business versus Sanford. Win that game. I want to see, like I said, I want to see you put that game away. If Ole Miss comes out of that at any point other than 9-3, there's a little bit of a problem. But then you get ready for Florida because the real game starts. Now, you know how I feel about non-conference SEC games. It in this league is just never going to matter because of the importance that we place on football. If there's football games still being played, football is going to get most of the thing. If you look at this podcast, we do at least one segment a day of SEC or of Ole Miss football. Year round. It doesn't matter what's going on. It can be in the middle of basketball and baseball season. We're going to do a segment on Ole Miss football because Ole Miss football is what sells. And it's what everybody wants to hear about. Yeah, today we're going to talk a little bit about the Sugar Bowl in segment 3. Even though we did the NIL and everything's going on, we're going to do a little bit of football every day. That is our goal because our goal is perspectives and commentary. And then we're going to do football every day. But if you look at the basketball team, that's what we need. We need a win versus Sanford, and we get to see what we have against Florida. We get to see what we have against Florida. By then, we'll be fairly close to Ruffin making the play, getting close to full strength every game, and it's really going to help this team as the SEC season unfolds. Because when it comes to non-conference games, the only way it matters is if your conference is not what you expect it to be. Because whether Ole Miss has gone 15-7 in the conference or 9-8, it seems like in non-conference they go 9-3 every year, every single year. Now, who those wins are against and who you get to play, they start mattering if you are that 9-7 in conference. If you're like 15-5 and all that, it doesn't matter at all. You're in. They're not even going to look at these non-conference games. But if they're looking at them, that means your conference play did not go like what you expected. That's all. But need to get right. I want to see him shoot a little bit better. I want to see the penetration by Ruffin. I want to see him playing with Brakefield and Morrell and Joyner, and I want to see them make some threes because there's going to be some kick-out opportunities for three. So if they can make some threes, they have a chance to be fairly special moving forward, and will be a headache with the way they defend against teams in the Southeastern Conference. But that game is tip-off at 4 o'clock Eastern and 3 o'clock Central Time. So coming up after this, we are going to talk a little bit about the Sugar Bowl. Not too much, but thank you very much for listening. And bowl season is here, Ole Miss fans. Basically, you can set up entry and handle daily fantasy through PrizePicks. Use promo code LOCKEDON for your entry. PrizePicks is the leader in college sports daily fantasy. It offers more college football and basketball props than anyone in the world, and offers the all-star players of the Power 5 as well as the mid-major players you might not have even heard of. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of. In basketball, you can play points, rebounds, assists, threes made, or more. All of your users that deposit and use the promo code LOCKEDON will get a 100% instant deposit match of up to $100. Just use promo code LOCKEDON. Basically, you pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times. On any entry, it's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks allows multiple sports. You can take the over on Mahomes and the under on LeBron James. Use the award-winning app for the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. So PrizePicks offers safe and fast withdrawals. That's PrizePicks. Promo code LOCKEDON for your entry today. All right, welcome back. Again, thanks for making Locked On Ole Miss Podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. We got the Sugar Bowl coming up in under 2 weeks, Ole Miss versus Baylor. And one of the situations that I'm looking forward to is how Ole Miss can deal with the Baylor running game. We've heard me say in the preview, you've heard me say before this, that Baylor reminds me of a 2014 LSU, that range. And that is because LSU's offensive coordinator from about that time, or offensive line coach from that time, is now Baylor's offensive coordinator. Dave Aranda, who was the defensive coordinator at that time, is now the head coach at Baylor. So they are building this team in the image of those mid-2012, 2013 image. They're going to do it with defense. They're going to do it with running the football. And occasionally they're going to throw the ball, but not much. They're going to throw the ball 17 to 25 times a game. And they have an extremely physical running back. Now, the last time we saw something like this as Ole Miss fans was the Texas A&M game. Everybody thought Texas A&M was going to come in and mash Ole Miss. They were just going to run the ball downhill. We saw the murder ball against Alabama. We saw the murder ball against Arkansas. We were genuinely concerned. And then Texas A&M came to town, and they just couldn't run the ball. So Ole Miss was able to stop it. I think that the 3-2-6 is going to be more of a 3-3-5, just between you and me. I think you're going to see some Ashanti Seastrunk out there playing in one of the box safety roles, and the other side will be a Jake Springer from time to time. They'll change personnel groupings with that. Sometimes you'll have Tysheem Johnson and Jake Springer. But I think they're going to try to stop the run using creative means. Now, I need to go back and watch the Baylor versus Iowa State game. I want to see what happened in that game, because that'll tell you a little bit of how our defense will match up against the Baylor Bears. But I'm curious, really genuinely curious of what we're going to see in that game. But I imagine Baylor is going to come forth and try to really mash. And in doing so, like I said, it is what it is. But Tomorrow's show, expect us to record after the Ole Miss Sanford game. We'll have a little bit of reaction from that game, potentially. And, of course, we'll continue to talk Sugar Bowl as is tradition. Sugar Bowl or transfer portal. I might decide I want to talk transfer portal as well. So, thanks, everybody, for listening. Hope everybody had a good time, and we will see you tomorrow. Hotty toddy.